It's time. Everybody's ready? Yes. Cool. So what is this presentation about? It's a little bit technical, so I'm sorry in advance if some of you are not too technical. It's kind of technical. Some architecture, some concepts. Hopefully you'll follow along, and if not, I'll be here afterwards so you can approach me. The presentation name is about cloud security best practices. We've created the blueprint, the security blueprint last year. I don't know how many of you were here last year. Can you raise your hand? Any of you? Yeah. Ooh. Whoa. So this session is a follow-up. We're actually building the next generation of the blueprint. We don't want to call it a blueprint anymore, so we're calling it best practices. You can call it a reference architecture. But that's what it is about. Cool? And we're talking about public clouds, and what we're trying to do here is help our customers when they're moving to public clouds to say, okay, this is how Checkpoint sees it. This is how you should be doing it. So the presentation in a nutshell, this whole presentation is in one slide, okay? What is this slide about? Well, it's not one slide, it's gonna be more, but I'm just giving you like the whole thing so you won't be bored. If you wanna leave after that, it's fine. But in a nutshell, the thing about cloud is that it's very easy. Every kid, every child, every grandma can launch their own servers. They can use it. We're talking about freedom. We're talking about agility. We're talking about efficiency. We're talking about a lot of things. Do you agree? Cloud is easy, right? But it's also very risky. And maybe you have found out that it's risky, maybe not. Some of our customers already found that. Some of big names that you probably heard during this event. So what are we trying to do? And again, this whole slide right here is all I'm going to talk about, right? It's how do we allow our customers to enjoy the cloud. When I say enjoy the benefits of the cloud, but also be secured. Okay, and we're going to talk about this. Any questions till this point? If that's the expectation, if it's not for you, you're excused. If not, stay here. It's going to be very interesting, I think. Okay, moving on. Why was the blueprint created? So we started hearing, me personally, by the way, I started hearing customers and partners and everybody talking about multi-cloud. It's not about Amazon only or Azure only or Google Cloud or Ali Cloud anymore. It's about how do we do both? How do we make all three? How do we create our operation that will be span across multi-cloud? That is the conversation. So that was the first time last year. Then we started thinking maybe something is changing because it's not just picking one vendor and then going with it because that's how it was in the beginning. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that those customers, they're talking a different language. They're saying cloud first. Have you heard that term? Can you raise your hand if you heard? It's a strategy. Customers are saying, listen, everything we will do from this point on will be on clouds. Why? Because it makes sense. Because it's cheaper, because it's faster. It was anything that you can think of. Let's do it on the cloud. And it's common. Third thing is that everybody's building or already using some kind of cloud. A lot of my customers, when I go and approach them and talk about public cloud, and maybe they say, we don't know about public cloud. Some of their customers, some of their employees, some of their internal developers, they're already using cloud, and those guys don't even know about it. It's called bring your own cloud. Every developer can put in his credit card, or even the free tier, and then start launching, the application on top of Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud. It's that easy. And I've heard more than once, but one significant was one of my customers. I said, hey, do you use public cloud? They say, you know what? The developers came to me a week ago and they say, how do we connect with a VPN, our Azure environment? And the network guys, they didn't know it existed until that point. Do you understand the challenge here? Our guys, networking security, which use our products, they don't even know that their developers, their employees are using the cloud. This is a challenge that we're trying to fix. And the last thing, which I have already mentioned, a lot of companies got burned in the cloud. A lot of customers, a lot of organizations, they found out the hard way that cloud could be very risky. And you can see it on the news every day. I actually have a slide that shows every big aspect of data leakage, incidents, security incidents in the cloud. But guess what? It changes every day. So whatever slide I'm going to put here, it's not going to be up to date, so I'm not even trying. If you follow the news, you'll see a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, a lot of big names that have been breached. You know what the problem, in my opinion, is? It's that what you don't see on the news. Think about it. I'm guessing most of the incidents are not even reported. Well, who gets reported? Only the ones that are obligated to. It's something to keep in mind. So this is why we started the journey. What are we trying to solve here? Why is the blueprint created in the first place? So once again, we want to allow our customers to fully utilize what the benefits of the cloud. So we're talking about agility, elasticity, efficiency, reliability, whatever ability TTT that the cloud has to offer, yes. We want to be able to allow them to enjoy it. We want to allow them to have visibility. If you're a customer or you're a partner that's visiting customers or you're a checkpoint employee, whatever, that talks about the cloud, it will come up. They usually don't say visibility, but if you listen very hard, that's what's bothering them all. They want to know, they want to see what's happening. Visibility is a big thing. And it's all about efficiency as well, right? So we're talking about two aspects of efficiency. One, you want to pay only for what you're using. You don't want to pay upfront for something that you won't be using. So that's one part of efficiency. The second is about operational efficiency. How do we allow less and less people to operate my cloud security, or cloud or security in general, and then less people will deal with that. They could do a lot more things. They could handle and focus on more interesting, deeper things than just, opening, pushing rules, I don't know, whatever. So that's the other aspect of efficiency. Now is a good time for questions, if you have them. None. Okay, I'm moving on, but please feel free. The good old way. So this is how the blueprint looked like a year ago. This is nothing new. This is the concept, and if you ask me, boring enough, this is still the concept. Why is it still the concept? Because what we built here was a systematic approach of where we said, listen, your business, your developers, your departments, your applications are here. They are the spokes. And inside the spokes, you have full freedom. Allow your users, allow your developers, allow your people to do whatever they want within that spoke. But you will be sitting in two gates into the environment. The northbound, where it leads in traffic coming from the internet, and in the southbound. And then we said, listen, east-west traffic will also be inspected through the southbound. I'm just reminding you all what happened last year, in case you weren't here. So northbound will be coming traffic from the internet, so we're treating it as suspicious, very, very risky. And systematically separated, traffic east-west will be traveling through the southbound, but also traffic to and from the corporate, from our environment to and from the corporate, because that's a big deal as well. I've heard of customers being breached from their cloud environment into the corporate because they didn't do it good enough. And also, if you want to, you can also travel to and from, or actually only to the internet from that southbound. Why? Because we wanted to separate between traffic that you expose your applications to the public, and this is really risky. You don't know who's coming. You don't know how they're coming. They're going to try to invade, right? They're going to try to hack you. So this is one way. And the other is traffic initiated from within the environment. So we want to treat it differently. This is a best practice approach, but you don't have to follow 100%. What we did here, and I want to go through the things. One, we created a simplified architecture that doesn't say Amazon, Azure, or Google Cloud. It doesn't. It's just a conceptual approach you can implement whenever you want. If you want to use it on Alibaba Cloud, maybe you can use it. It's okay. It's just a concept, right? It's a systematic. So some things we did are systematically blocking. So for example, right, when we're doing this connectivity, if Spoke 2, for example, has databases inside, those are very sensitive servers that they never need anyone accessing them from the internet. It just doesn't make sense directly. So what we recommend is to disconnect that spoke from the northbound. So not even a human error of someone doing a mistake here in the policy will expose your database. That's a systematic approach. Okay? It's a templatized. I'm using the German word Stanz. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's really far from here. But a German uses a word called Stanz, and it means you can create like a template, like something you can replay, right? So this design right here is the Stanz. You create it once, and then if you're using multi-cloud and you're using the same concept, the same architecture, then you really don't have to think of it. It's just the same thing, right? Our R&D is constantly working to align itself with the field, and I'm going to show it to you in coming slides. But we're always on the lookout, looking for what Amazon has to say, and then we're aligning it with how we deal with the blueprint. But the concept stays the same, and this is the thing. We're actually trying to make it easier. So for example, in Amazon, we have introduced an automation where whenever someone adds a spoke, our management will create all the connectivity around it without you needing to do all the manual work. So if you remember, we talked about efficiency and how we can have less and less people deal with the environment. That's a good example of that. And what we are trying eventually to do is to have security in the speed of DevOps and DevSecOps. Why? Why are we trying to do this? Because if security will be a blocker, and it's already considered a blocker by these guys, what do? They go around us. They work around us. And then you get stories like the guys who said, how can we connect our Azure environment to the VPN? And the guys responsible for the network didn't even know it existed. We don't want to get there. We want to be in a place where we control. We want to be in a place where we are the trusted advisor, where we are the enablers for cloud. You guys want to be there. So this is what it's trying to do. And I said this is just a concept. So here's an example of some of my customers took that to the next level. They actually said, okay, northbound is nice. I understand the concept. But in the southbound, we want to actually separate it further segment it. Why? Because we don't want the internet traffic, outgoing internet traffic, to mix with the east-west and corporate. You can do that as well. It doesn't mean anything. As long as you're keeping the basic concepts, you can keep it. It's fine. So that's a possibility as well. And like I said, our R&D keeps on working, keeps on updating the products, keep on thinking of next things to do. Actually, if you approach us on the tech tables, there's the gated area within the expo. We have a couple of tables for public cloud, for private cloud, for Dome9. Please visit us. We'll show you some of those examples. How do we make things better? Not just by putting checkpoint products on cloud, but how do we make automation around it? How do we integrate with the cloud to make it faster, better, and more easy for you? And Amazon just released the Transit Gateway. When was it? Like a month ago? So I'm happy to say, and you can actually see it as well on our tech tables, is we are building a solution for this Transit Gateway. We actually have something in place, and we are constantly improving it. But maybe some of you already saw, if you're very focused in this session, then we are talking about the blueprint once again. It doesn't matter that we have a Transit Gateway in the middle. We're still keeping the same concepts of the blueprint. Why? Because securing public clouds has the same concept. We want to systematically separate between traffic coming from the internet, right? And between traffic going outside to the internet. Then we have the corporate data center, maybe connected to a different area, but still, it will be always traversing through the southbound hub just as before. Nothing has changed. The concept is still the same. The way that we implement it is a little bit different. So that's the example of Amazon Transit Gateway. An interesting thing that I want to point out, we still have time, is that the Transit Gateway allows us to do some magic here. Like before, working with the cloud environments allows us to do stuff that we were not able to do in the past. So in this example, we're actually setting up an auto-scaling group of CloudGuard gateways, and we set up a VPN tunnel per gateway. So let's say that the solution needs 100 gateways at the moment. The transit gateway will set up a VPN tunnel to each of those gateways, and we'll use ECMP. Sorry for the technical stuff, but I promised you that, so I'm keeping it. So you're going to have equal cost multipath capabilities, which means you can actually have more traffic run through that. So that makes sense. Because if you're talking about east-west traffic being inspected through the southbound, you need that bandwidth. That's what we're offering here. How about Azure? Was there any changes in Azure? Do you know? So Azure created the virtual one. What is the virtual one? Anybody heard of it? Can you raise your hand? It's a new thing, but it allows you to create a virtual one hubs. That's Azure thing. This is not a checkpoint thing. This is Azure. You can create your hubs. All this rectangle, the gray rectangle right here, is Azure. But you can now create your hubs in a geographical locations. And assuming this is your branch in China, and this is your branch in America, you can actually utilize the connectivity through those branches, through a VPN, through the hubs, and then over, this is Azure Fabric right here. It's very efficient. It's not checkpoint solution, right? It's Azure. It's a very great solution by Azure. It allows you to push traffic in a quality of service, bandwidth, high quality between your branches. How do we integrate into that? So guess what? Here's our blueprint right here with Azure. And we can integrate actually and have all those hubs connected to the southbound hub. Why would you do that? Because then you can actually control and scan and have visibility, remember? Visibility into what's going on. Then you can have control. By the way, in this example, the headquarters is still connected with an express route. So it's still an option. You can mix and match. It doesn't matter for us. We just sit in the middle. We never replace Azure. We're not looking to replace the cloud vendors. We work with them. We comply into their solutions and then provide our added services, our added value, right? Cool. Is that the end? No. Why? Because there's some things coming up. So some more challenges coming up, right? What are the challenges? Hopefully this is not too small. But visibility. The more those environments, cloud environments grow, more security groups, more assets, more networks, more storage buckets, right? The less you have control of them. Because maybe if you have one security group, it's really easy to control what's in it. But if you have 1,000, how do you know if one security group that you made a simple mistake in did not expose your database now? How do you know that? So we know that we need visibility. We're already gaining visibility with CloudGuard, but we need higher visibility. Or maybe, in my opinion, it's like zooming out, taking a wider look, not just on the network. We'll talk about that. The second thing is about the attack surface. You probably heard that during this event, but I'm going to repeat it. The attack surface is expanding. It's not about the network anymore. Or it is still the network. Because if you start a machine and put it on the internet, it's going to take a few seconds, really seconds, until it's going to be hammered. Not breached, but hammered. It will try to. So, but we also know that now, based on stories, based on this new technology, problems are not just coming from the network. We're going to talk about this as well. Multi-cloud, this is not a new thing, but it keeps on evolving, right? More and more customers are picking it up, and they want to see it. They want to talk about this story. And the last thing is about continuous compliance. How do we continuously know that we're in compliance? How do we know when we fall from compliance, fall out of compliance, and how do we fix this automatically? Luckily enough, and this is a great story that we have to talk now, is Checkpoint acquired Dome9. You've heard of it probably, and I saw all of you, or probably most of you here in the session that Zohar gave. So this story that I just talked about, the challenges, it's all about this. We're actually understanding that the game is changing and we want to be able to accommodate it for you. So the first thing is about visibility. Once again, the more you have more security groups, more assets, more things running in between your fingers, more cloud environments, the bigger the chances that you're going to have an issue. Dome 9 clarity allows you to see in a snapshot within 5 minutes of your assets and how are they exposed or not to the internet. Just like that, based on your configuration. Dome 9 Magellan allows you to see the actual traffic traversing through your security groups and your flows of traffic, right? The flow logs. And understand from there, being able to analyze in close to real time, right? But understanding what's happening practically, not just how, it should have been. This is how it looks like. From the attack surface, Dome 9 allows us to look not just from the network, which we are very used to. We have a very good story, right? CloudGuard is, I guess, is the best solution from a network perspective. We see everything that's on the network. We are able to analyze it deeply into the layer 7, and nothing comes, nothing escapes us if you configure it correctly, right? But it's not just about the network. How do you protect your users? How do you make sure that your Amazon credentials are not being taken by someone else and someone else is using it? How do you make sure that your admins, your actual admins, don't go into Amazon and make a mistake in your DNS configuration and then mess your whole thing up? Can you do that? And the last thing is about the control plane. How do you protect your storage? How do you protect your messaging? How do you protect your serverless environments? Right? It's not everything is on the network. So how do you protect that? And luckily, the next thing is about the continuous compliance. How does a compliance looks like on a regular environment, right? So you start off very good, and then you slowly but surely someone else is adding rules, and then you're falling short. But then an audit comes up, so you fix everything. Once again you're in good shape, but then I don't know, a few months later you're back. This is not acceptable. Not in clouds. You have no forgiveness in the cloud. If you make this, then you'll be breached. You will be sorry for this. It's going to cost you a lot. So Dome 9 allows you to take compliance and make it continuous. How do you run tests on your environment? Constantly. And whenever you fall short, constantly or automatically remediate. So this is just an example of the compliance blade that Dome 9 has, which allows you to run any compliance check like HIPAA, PCI, SOX, ISO 20001, and you can run it against your environment even today. You can actually leave this room after that and just log into your try license and try it yourself and run it and say, what is my grade? How much do I get? Am I failing or am I passing? And then if that's not enough, Dome 9 created another solution where you can create your own tests. Maybe not necessarily you want to just run HIPAA tests or GDPR tests or I don't know, whatever is relevant for you. Maybe you have your own things that you want to make sure compliance, right? So there's actually a very easy and intuitive language that you can use to create your own rules, your own corporate rules. So you can, make sure that only whenever someone creates a storage, it has to be encrypted. I don't know, maybe it's an example for you or not. But maybe you want to make sure at all times, regardless if it's HIPAA or SOX or PCI, you want to make sure that if someone creates a storage, it's encrypted, period. And if someone didn't do that, then you punish him, right? And punish him, I mean, you will not allow it to be exposed. You can do it really easily. It's like a drag and drop it's called GSL. It's a very easy language, very intuitive. This is a present I have for you just it's almost the end of the presentation. But this is a typical integration that we expect to see when you're combining Magellan, right? Being able to see the traffic that flows on your flow logs, but also having the visibility. In this example, you can see that CloudGuard is being recognized as part of this complicated map. So from a visibility perspective, you understand immediately who is external, who is your DMZ exposed to the internet, and who is the internal, who are you protecting. And for me, this is the greatest story because it's bringing the best of two worlds. It's bringing Checkpoint CloudGuard, where we are best in doing network security, and taking Dome 9 to overlook everything from the outside and making sure that this doesn't happen. Because I don't know if you can see it, but I've seen it on many presentations, this is a big deal in this event, is that Gartner says that by 2020, 95% of breaches will be due to misconfigurations. We're not talking about bad people. We're talking about people who don't know how to use the cloud, so doing a bad misconfiguration, exposing the storage to the internet, or exposing assets to the internet. With this tool, with this type of integration, you will be able to immediately identify, and also remediate, by the way, if you can see someone exposed externally that is not a cloud guard, because you expect your cloud guard to be the only one that is exposed to the internet, right? And so this integration allows us to combine those two worlds and see and make sure that compliance in our perspective, where cloud guard is not being worked around or someone is bypassing it. So that's where it comes in, with all the other benefits I mentioned. So some of the challenges, and with this I'm going to kind of wrap up. First, we talked about misconfiguration. So we're talking about how do we know to operate our clouds in a secure way? How do we create the compliance checks and then make sure that we're still in those boundaries whenever and whatever we do? The second thing is about how do we keep ourselves agile enough to secure the application that's coming up, right? And for this, we have checkpoint experience and intellectual property, and we have Dome 9 coming on board, so you're gonna see some integrations around that as well with the threat cloud, so you can expect some news about that. And the last thing is about automation, orchestration, DevOps speed. How do we make things automatically? How do we make things to auto-remediate issues and stuff? And as a summary, first, you know that by now, and hopefully you've heard that in the presentation as well. Moving to the cloud is really easy, but it has risks. And you should be aware. You as a customer, you as a partner, you talk to your friends at the pub. It's risky. Don't tell them just go and it's easy, just do it. You know, be aware that there's some issues. The second thing is, yes, you can control and you can secure your clouds. We have the experience. We have the knowledge, and we're building the tools as we speak from last year, and we keep on building and keeping being on the edge. So the vendors are building solutions like the Transit Gateway on Amazon, like the virtual one on Azure. We are up with them. We're building it with them. We're making sure that we have the solution right. And make yourself the cloud advisors. Make yourself the enablers, not the blockers. Don't say, no, we're going to block this firewall and it's going to be blocked until you submit a ticket and wait for a week. That doesn't work in the cloud anymore. Say, okay, here's your spoke connected to my hub and you can do whatever you want. As long as you're moving through me and I have visibility, you run free and wild. Enjoy the cloud. This is what it is. Any question, guys? No. Cool, so we're done. 2 minutes before. The next presentation, thank you. Next presentation is by my colleague, Amir. He's a great guy, and he's going to talk about containers. So if you were thinking, this guy's bluffing, you're not doing technology, this guy is. So we are building the solutions to match that. Thank you so much, guys.